Most people wake up in the morning and do something without even realizing it. They start thinking about yesterday, the argument they had, the mistake they made, the person who disappointed them, the bill they have to pay, the problem they still haven't solved. And before their feet even touch the floor, they're already feeling the emotions of the past. Think about that for a second. You haven't even started your day, but your mind is already living in yesterday. Your brain is incredibly good at remembering. But here's the problem. If you keep thinking the same thoughts, feeling the same emotions, and reacting to the same situations, you can end up creating the same life over and over again. It's almost like playing the same old recording every morning, same thoughts, same emotions, same behaviors, same results, and eventually you start believing that's just who you are. But what if it isn't? What if your personality is partly a collection of habits you've practiced for years? What if the person you call me is actually a pattern that has become familiar? And what if you could begin changing that pattern? That's the idea we're going to explore today, because your past may have shaped you, but it doesn't have to control your future. Let's start with something simple. Imagine that yesterday someone said something that really upset you. You go to sleep angry. The next morning, you remember what happened, and instantly you feel that anger again. Nothing is happening to you right now. You're sitting in your room. The situation is over, but your body is reacting as if the experience is still important. Now imagine repeating that process every day, 1 week, 1 month. Eventually, that emotional reaction can become familiar. People may start saying, "He's always angry, she's always stressed, he's always negative." And eventually, you might even start saying it about yourself. That's how a temporary emotion can become a repeated pattern, and repeated patterns can become habits. Habits can become part of your identity. So the question becomes, are you choosing your life, or are your old patterns choosing it for you? Think about your average morning. You wake up, you grab your phone, you check your notifications, Instagram, TikTok, messages, emails, news. Before you've even had a moment to think for yourself, you've already allowed the outside world to tell your brain what to focus on. Then the routine begins. Same breakfast, same shower, same clothes, same commute, same workplace, same conversations, same frustrations, same reactions. Then you go home, same entertainment, same scrolling, same thoughts, and eventually you go to sleep. Then tomorrow you do it all again. There's nothing wrong with having routines. The problem begins when your routine becomes so automatic that you stop questioning it. You may think you're living by choice, but sometimes you're simply following a program you've practiced for years, and that's where real change begins. Awareness. You can't change a pattern you don't recognize. You can't change a thought you're not aware you're thinking. And you can't change an emotional reaction if you don't notice it happening. This is why meditation has become such an important practice for people interested in personal growth. Meditation gives you a chance to pause, to step back, to observe your mind instead of immediately reacting to everything it produces. You sit down, your mind starts talking, you remember something, you worry about something, you think about tomorrow, you remember an old conversation, you suddenly want to check your phone. That's normal. The goal isn't to have a completely empty mind. The goal is to notice what's happening without automatically following every thought. A thought appears, you notice it. Then you return your attention. Another thought appears, you notice it, and you return again. That simple practice teaches an important lesson. You are not required to obey every thought your mind produces. Just because you think something doesn't mean it's true. Just because you feel something doesn't mean you have to act on it. Your mind can generate fear without there being immediate danger. It can generate doubt without you actually being incapable. It can replay an old mistake even though the mistake is already over. So instead of asking, "Why am I thinking this?" you can start asking, "Do I want to keep giving this thought my attention?" That question creates space, and in that space, you have a choice. Now let's take this one step further. Instead of using your imagination to replay the past, what if you used it to rehearse the future? Close your eyes. Imagine the person you want to become, not a fantasy version of yourself, a realistic version. Maybe you're calmer under pressure. Maybe you're more disciplined. Maybe you stop procrastinating. Maybe you communicate better. Maybe you take better care of yourself. Maybe you become more confident when facing challenges. Picture yourself behaving that way. Imagine the conversation. Imagine the decision. Imagine the moment when the old version of you would normally react, and picture yourself responding differently. You're mentally rehearsing a new behavior. And the more consistently you practice a behavior, the more familiar it can become. This doesn't mean imagination magically guarantees success. It means your attention is being directed toward the person you want to practice becoming, and that's powerful because your brain is constantly learning from what you repeatedly focus on. Think about an athlete. They don't wait until game day to practice. They rehearse, they repeat, they build familiarity. Personal change can work in a similar way. You practice the response before the situation arrives. You practice patience before you're tested. You practice focus before distractions appear. You practice confidence before the difficult conversation. You practice gratitude before life becomes perfect. And this brings us to something even deeper. Your thoughts and emotions are connected. If you constantly think about stressful situations, you may repeatedly experience stress. If you constantly focus on things that went wrong, you may become more aware of what's wrong. If you repeatedly focus on what you're grateful for, you may become better at noticing what is going right. This is why learning to direct your attention matters. Your attention is like a spotlight. Whatever you repeatedly shine it on becomes more noticeable. So ask yourself, what has your mental spotlight been focused on lately? Problems, fear, comparison, regret, or possibility? Now here's the difficult part. When you try to change, your old habits may push back. You're sitting down to meditate, and suddenly you remember an email you need to send. You feel like checking your phone. You remember something from years ago. You suddenly decide that this is the perfect time to clean your room. Why? Because your mind is used to stimulation. Your old routine is familiar, and the unfamiliar can feel uncomfortable. But discomfort doesn't necessarily mean you're doing something wrong. Sometimes discomfort simply means you're doing something different. Think about going to the gym for the first time. The body isn't used to the activity, but with consistent practice, the activity becomes more familiar. The same principle applies to attention. At first, staying present for even a few minutes can feel difficult. But with practice, you can become better at noticing when your mind wanders. And every time you notice and return, you've practiced awareness. That's the real exercise. Your mind wanders, you return again and again and again. Over time, you become better at catching yourself before an automatic reaction takes over. You start noticing, I'm getting angry, I'm starting to overthink, I'm about to procrastinate, I'm comparing myself again, I'm replaying the same old story. And instead of automatically continuing the pattern, you have a moment to choose. That moment can change everything. Because between a thought and an action, there is an opportunity, and that opportunity is awareness. You don't need to completely erase your past. You don't need to pretend painful experiences never happened. And you don't need to force yourself to feel positive all the time. Real growth is more practical than that. It's learning to recognize your patterns and deciding which ones deserve to continue. Think of your mind like a garden. If you never pay attention to it, weeds can grow automatically. But when you become aware, you can start removing what doesn't belong there. Then you can plant something new, a better habit, a healthier response, a more useful belief, a different way of thinking. But remember, you don't change your life in one morning. You change it through repetition. One thought, one decision, one behavior, one day at a time. And eventually, those small choices begin to create a different pattern. So tomorrow morning, try something simple. Before you grab your phone, pause, take a breath, ask yourself, what am I thinking about right now? Is this thought connected to my past? Is this thought helping me? And who do I want to be today? Then choose one quality, maybe patience, maybe discipline, maybe confidence, maybe gratitude, maybe focus. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine yourself practicing that quality during your day. Imagine the difficult moment. Imagine the old reaction. Then imagine yourself choosing a better response. And when the real moment comes, practice it. Because the goal isn't to become a completely different person overnight.
Because the goal isn't to become a completely different person overnight. The goal is to stop automatically becoming the same person every day. Your past can teach you, your past can give you experience, your past can explain certain patterns, but your past doesn't have to write every chapter of your future. You can become aware, you can practice, you can choose differently, and you can build new patterns. So the next time you catch yourself replaying an old problem, stop for a moment, take a breath, notice the thought, and remind yourself, this is a thought from my past. I don't have to carry it into my future. Because your future isn't created by one giant decision. It's created by the thoughts you repeatedly entertain, the choices you repeatedly make, and the behaviors you repeatedly practice. Change the pattern, and you begin changing the direction. Maybe the most important question isn't who have I been, maybe it's who am I becoming. That question gives you something your past can never take away. Choice. Thanks for watching. And remember, your past may be part of your story, but you still have a role in writing what comes next.